Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. Of course, I'm in the middle of my Texas Chainsaw Massacre reviews. Excuse me. I'm having a weird allergy day. Even though it's raining outside, it's kind of nice. In the middle of my Texas Chainsaw Massacre reviews, I am now right there at the middle. Out of like 8 movies to review, or 9, or whatever it is, I have this one right here. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which is part 4 of the series. There's a lot of different iconic covers for this horrible movie. One of them being Lips with a lipstick that's made out of a chainsaw. Then there's one of Leatherface dressed up in drag. This movie was like advertised on Leatherface dressed up in drag. It's super weird. So this cover here obviously has 2 faces you probably know. Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. They are in this back in the day, in the early days of their careers, before they became like, you know, Bridget Jones and Christopher Nolan's Space Boy. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation happens to be directed by the co-creator of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the co-writers and co-creators of the original film, or the other co-creator, whatever aside from Tobe Hooper. And this is his movie, by himself, without Tobe to double-check his ass. Not that I think Tobe is perfect by any means, like I said in my previous couple of reviews, but I will tell you this. The Next Generation is practically, in my personal opinion, unwatchable. I hate this fucking movie so much. I don't have words for it. It's just, if there was ever a movie that was nothing but noise, it would be this. This and Transformers: The Last Night, which I could watch that before I'd watch this again. I really could. I've seen this movie 2 times now, this being the second time for this review, and God willing, I'm determined I'm not going to watch this shit ever again, because I absolutely hate it. A lot of people give a lot of crap to the 2017 film Leatherface for being kind of the second origin story about Leatherface's life that we've had in the series. And I understand why. I get it. But I will tell you this. I think that to be insulted by that, and to forget this movie, and how unwatchable it is, with just all the sound and noise and sound and noise and then noise and sound all the time in this shit, it just never ends. It absolutely never ends in this movie. It's over the top, it's weird, it goes into like this weird conspiracy government agency route that makes no sense. There's so much stupid shit in this film that I'm not going to spoil for you. My biggest thing to say to you right now, if you have not seen the TCM series, do not watch this particular one. Unless you're reviewing, I guess you'll probably want to review all of them, but be prepared, because this is the one that is hard to make it through, every single time. This is part 4, like I said. Now, what is this film about? Well, basically, Renee Zellweger, her friend, and I guess both of their boyfriends or whatever, go to their prom night. And the 2 friends get into an argument. They go to their car because the girl of the 2 friends decides she's going to steal the car from her boyfriend, or steal his car, whatever. He's kind of an abusive guy. He's just mean. He cheats on her and stuff. He tries to gaslight her over saying she's the reason he's cheating, and then he tries to blame other people for why he's cheating. He's a scumbag. He just is. But Bridget Jones herself is in the back seat. Apparently, I think they said she was smoking weed with her boyfriend or friend or whatever that guy is. Prom night date, I don't know. And they go on a drive after they leave prom night that night because of that one friend, the girl that stole the car, being upset. And as they drive away, they kind of, I don't know how far away they would have to go to run into Leatherface territory, but they get into a car wreck with a guy. And eventually when they call a tow truck, after they meet up with this one lady that works in like a small, I guess it's like a construction site, I don't know what she does. Very beautiful woman, very involved in the movie. They call a tow truck, and that's where Matthew McConaughey comes into the film. He shows up with the tow truck, and he's already immediately a nutcase. Now this is the thing. From this point on, of course, his name is Vilmer, by the way. I keep wanting to say Velma, like from Scooby-Doo. Vilmer drags these kids after he kidnaps each of them, and as they go throughout the film, they find their way to his house and whatever, and find their way to Vilmer. Eventually, they all end up in Leatherface's house. By the time that Reese Witherspoon, or not Reese Witherspoon, where did that come from? Where did that come from? By the time Renee Zellweger ends up at the house that Leatherface is in now, which once again, this film being a soft reboot, it ignores part 2 and part 3. Okay. Vilmer is really the big villain here. Leatherface is in the movie most of the time, but he plays into all the problems with this film. Truly, like the big issues with this movie and why I hate it so deeply and why most fans of the series and most non-fans of the series and just movie fans in general hate this piece of shit movie. It's nothing but noise all the time. It's not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. It feels like what David Gordon Green tried to do with Halloween Ends. It feels like the idea that they're going to shake this up and change things up. Now, mind you, at least it's like an hour and 25 minutes. By the way, it came out in 1995, if you give a shit, 5 years after the previous film, which was part 3. Now, let me talk about Mr. Matthew McConaughey and the writing of all of the characters. Of course, the cannon fodder like Renee Zellweger and everybody else, most of them are bad. Renee is not bad here. She's trying to do something with the really generic script they gave her. It wasn't even a generic script. It's just a bad movie script in general. They gave her a horrible script to work with. She's not doing that puckered lip thing, like the I tasted a lemon thing, which was kind of surprising. She's a really pretty girl when she's not doing that. I assume that was a cosmetic thing. I don't know. But then Matthew McConaughey being in this, he is the only good thing about this film, aside from 2 songs in the soundtrack that I like, which shouldn't fit because they're like regular like rock 90s songs. They fit really well for the scenes they're in, surprisingly. Matthew McConaughey, though, is an absolute nutcase in this movie. He is so much fun to watch. Vilmer is kind of quotable. As much screaming as he does all of the time in this movie, he is so fun to watch. Every time Vilmer is on screen, he is stealing the scene away. And that's hard to say when he is kind of the big bad guy, without Leatherface being the big bad guy. Leatherface is so much in the background in this movie that I can't even believe they got away with that. I can't believe they got away with calling it a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And you can argue that when you watch part 1, the original movie, or when you watch part 2, Leatherface is kind of not the main bad guy. A lot of his motives seem to be motivated by his brothers in part 1 and part 2. It's possible. He's still a nutcase who wears people's faces on his face, but still, he's not innocent. But he kind of seems pushed by his brothers to do the things he does in part 1 and part 2. The cannibal aspect in this film seems to have completely vanished. I still don't understand if that's a thing here or not. I don't understand it. It feels like this is trying to ignore part 2 and part 3 and be a direct sequel to the original movie. But who gives a shit? Because it's so bad. I don't have words to describe how horrible this film is. I hated every moment I had to watch it this time around, just like I did the first time. Matthew McConaughey being the most watchable and being fun and crazy. The stuff that he says in this film are so fun. He is a wild character, the only character with any kind of good writing, and frankly, I would be willing to bet that it's not good writing, it's good improv. There's a difference. Now, anybody else that I could talk about, the girlfriend of Vilmer, I think is really good. I like her a lot. I think she's really pretty, really fun, has a lot of funny lines in here that I enjoy too. They're pretty much the only 2 that's worth watching, but they're really abusive relationship. It's hard to watch sometimes, especially because Matthew McConaughey played that role so well in this movie. And then we talk about Leatherface. I mentioned the thing about the posters, having Leatherface in drag, right? Like, not just drag, but like lingerie. The film starts off with him not doing that. And as it goes along, he gets a new face and kind of like a new chest, too, from whoever he killed. It's already left my brain of who he killed. But he starts dressing in, like, women's lingerie, and he has, like, a wig on. I assume it's somebody's actual scalp with their hair connected to it, but he's dressing up entirely like a woman. But not just like that. He's putting, like, makeup on, which I think he did in the original film as well. I could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain he did that as well, but they didn't do it, like, on screen. There's a scene of this dude, like an 80s montage of this guy putting on fucking lipstick. Yeah. You got to see that. Leatherface got to apply lipstick. And he's still yelling and crying and whining throughout the entire movie. And I'll tell you this, too. This kind of goes along with what I'm going to talk about practical effects. He doesn't kill anybody with a chainsaw. No one dies by a chainsaw in this film. To my recollection, for the second time ever watching this, not a single person died in this Texas Chainsaw Massacre titled movie by a chainsaw at all. You may ask, how did they die? Well, frankly, if you watch the film, you'll understand, because it's just generic shit constantly. It is such a garbage movie. Even down to the detail that Vilmer has a robotic leg brace. I don't know if he can't use his leg at all, but do you know how he controls this robotic leg brace that he uses? VCR and television remote controls that he has to charge up each day, and he goes through like 3 or 4 a day. Yeah. Television and VCR remotes. Can you imagine how I felt the first time I saw this shit? I know that when I was exposed to this movie, I'm fairly certain that Chris Stuckman himself, was on YouTube with a video about this, but I cannot find it to save my life. I've looked everywhere for what video I could have watched that was showing the behind-the-scenes stuff or whatever about this movie and how bad it was. I cannot find that video anywhere. I can't. This is horrible. And what they did to Leatherface, before and after the weird costume change-up, he's horrible in both. The performance is absolutely horrendously awful. It feels like a parody movie sometimes. It feels like when you had like superhero movie, or like when you had, which superhero movie was good? Like Scary Movie. I like Scary Movie. You had shit like Epic Movie, if you remember that. Or what was the one with the 300 and the Penguins? I don't remember. But there's a lot of old parody films that used to come out once upon a time, like Epic Movie. That, Not Another Teen Movie. Those kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? And they felt so cheap. And the one I remember the most was one of a guy dressed up in an Iron Man costume. It looked like one from like a Halloween City type of costume. And a plastic cow gets dropped on Iron Man. And Iron Man literally vanishes as this cow drops on top of him. And it's so bad that even when the cow hits the ground, it kind of rocks. That's what we're talking about with how this film feels in budget. It is awful. And this man here is no Tobe Hooper director, mind you. The look of the film, the cinematography, the feel, the direction, all of it is sloppy. It's awful. And if the film feels noisy all the time, then the filming itself is as generic as it could possibly be. It's trying itself to amp up so high, to have so many, I guess what this director thinks is in the moment's stakes, that nothing really feels important. It's just a lot of noise. Like I said, just everybody's screaming all the time in the third act. It's just too much shit happening at one time with really nothing happening at the same time. The things people complain about, like me, I complain about Pacific Rim all the time and how I don't like that first movie. I never saw the second one because I disliked the first one so much because it was just generic. It was just so much noise and fighting and nothing really to it plot-wise. If you feel that way about something like that, go watch this. See how much worse it could possibly be for you. It's a horrible film. Now, getting along to the practical effects I talked about, there are none. There are none. There's pretty much no blood in this entire film. There's pretty much no gore at all. Like I said, no one dies by a chainsaw. There's not really anything super horrifically violent aside from the abusive relationship between Matthew McConaughey and his girlfriend. Outside of that, there's no blood or anything like that. Not that I think there has to be, but at least have some atmosphere, have something to it. And it's like this co-writer that directed this film, the co-creator, if you will, of the original movie and the series. It feels like he's the same kind of guy like Tobe Hooper that's trying to claim the original film was a black comedy and trying to make his own sequel to accommodate to that. Frankly, I think it's a horrible idea. This is like 9 years after Part 2 came out, which was also a parody comedy type of thing, and a sequel to TCM. And it's just horribly miscast, the execution in general is just awful. It's truly awful, and it makes me angry the more I talk about it. Music, like I said, I like 2 songs on it, everything else feels like shit. I just don't care about it. It's just a lot of noise, and I'm sorry to have to repeat that over and over again, but if you've not seen this movie, you do not understand how frustrating it is to watch. To have to sit there for an hour and 20 minutes to sit through this. I had to break the film up a couple of times, because I couldn't handle it. It was just too much shit happening at one time. It's awful. It's truly awful, and I hate it deeply. But again, Matthew McConaughey is the one thing in the film that I really enjoyed, and I think he has a really good performance here. And again, Renee Zellweger's not bad. The girlfriend of Matthew McConaughey is pretty good too. But other than that, it's just awful. They're all wasted. All 3 of them are wasted in a horrible film and a horrible script, and I feel bad for all of them. What a horrible, terrible movie. God almighty. Anyway, when it comes to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Next Generation, whatever the fuck it's called, Don't watch this piece of shit. If you haven't seen it, do not waste money on this. Do not... This was about to go out of print entirely. I mean, this had been out of print for a while. I bought this for like 20 bucks to be able to see it, instead of renting it on Prime, because at the time you couldn't rent it on Prime. And then all of a sudden it got a re-release where now you can find the thing for like $7 at like an FYE, you know? I wish I had waited. I wanted to see it a while back. I bought it like 3 or 4 years ago, and I hated it so much when I watched it, hoping it'd be a so bad it's good movie, that it just crushed my spirits, dude. But anyway, Next Generation, Part 4, whatever you'd like to call it. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below about this terrible film. And if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I think I'd give it like a... I like those 3 actors, but I can't justify giving this a really high rating. Or even higher than what I'm about to give it, because those 3 are not good enough, are not in the film enough to justify giving it a 2 out of 5 stars. I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 stars, officially. That's what I'm going to give it because I hate it so deeply. I think it is just... It's embarrassing. It's frankly embarrassing and irritating how annoying this shit is. Anyway, have you seen The Next Generation? Again, put your thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this film that I hate so deeply. Just so you know, for record's sake, before I do the ranking video for these movies, this is easily the worst one. Easily. As much as I hate Part 2, it has a lot of decent stuff in there that at least makes it watchable. To me. Compared to this shit, it absolutely is. It's a bad movie. I don't like Part 2 at all. Aside from a couple of elements I talked about. But this is the worst one. This is absolutely the worst one. With a wasted McConaughey, Zellweger, and whatever that other chick's name is that I talked about. It's horrible. It doesn't even feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Thank you for sitting through me ranting this whole time. I appreciate it. I feel better. I feel better now. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you again. Goodbye.